This is a story in which few things are what they appear to be. Not this seemingly innocent classified ad, not a strip of adhesive tape, or a thumbtack, or even a trash bag. And if those items weren't what they seemed to be, this man wasn't who he seemed to be. He was known as a pillar of the community and of his church, the father of six. But federal prosecutors have now charged him with betraying some of America's most sensitive secrets. Tonight, Dateline will take you inside the world of international espionage, from the code names to the dead drops to the tradecraft. It's a story that seems ripped from the pages of a best-selling spy novel, except this story actually happened. 2 weeks ago, in this park in Northern Virginia, FBI agents arrested a man who they believe is one of the most dangerous spies in American history. And he was one of their own. His name is Robert Philip Hansen, a man so trusted that, as Dateline discovered, the new edition of the FBI's in-house magazine recognizes Hansen on what would have been his 25th anniversary with the Bureau. But by the time the issue had come from the printers, Hansen had become known as the ultimate turncoat.
You thought it had to be a different Bob Hansen?
Had to be a different Bob Hansen. Couldn't be our Bob Hansen, because if I had made a list of 1,000 people that could have been a spy, he wouldn't have been on that list. Not Bob.
Former FBI analytical chief David Major was one of Hansen's supervisors and a friend. He's stunned that the man he knew for 20 years is accused of being a spy for the Soviet Union and then Russia, dating back to the tense days of the Cold War.
Did you, as his supervisor, ever suspect Robert Hansen of being a traitor?
There is no way that just by knowing the man you could ever suspect that Bob would have taken this path in life. And that's the difficult thing. That's what made him the perfect spy.
The perfect spy? Growing up in Chicago, the son of a police officer, Hansen dabbled in an assortment of jobs until following his father into the Chicago Police Department. Some remember him as an officer who just didn't fit in.
I was suspicious of him because he was so much more well qualified than the other people that was sent in.
Security consultant Jack Clark hired Hansen for the Chicago Police Department's Special C5 unit, which fought police corruption.
He was just too bright, too smart for having virtually no experience in police work. He just knew it all.
After 2 years, Hansen left to join the FBI in 1976. In 1981, Hansen was assigned to the FBI's elite spy-catching division, just as the Cold War was reaching a crucial stage, and there seemed no more committed a Cold Warrior than Bob Hansen.
Bob would come into my office and we would talk about the Soviet Union, about it being run by godless communists.
Godless communists.
Godless communists. And he would make statement that it is bound to fail because it doesn't have God in their life, and that man who doesn't have God in his life will fail.
Former FBI analyst Paul Moore was another friend of Hansen's who was impressed by his religious commitment. He remembers a time when Hansen refused to go to a party at a strip club.
I made the argument that this was, when you think about it, it was all in good fun and it was just a boys will be boys kind of a thing. And he said, well, what you have there is an occasion of sin.
He wasn't having any part of it.
No, that's right, that's right.
But in the mid-1980s, as Hansen, his wife, and 6 children were living in this house in the Washington suburbs, the epitome of a devout and devoted Catholic family, something seems to have gone terribly wrong. The FBI says Robert Hansen became a spy and betrayed everything he said he stood for.
What's your theory?
My theory of Bob Hansen was like a wireman. Works with high wires all the time, and he can't touch it. And I think Bob wanted to touch the wire.
If it was to touch the wire, Robert Hansen's alleged actions would send a deadly jolt through the agency's pledge to protect America's very existence. According to information released by the government after his arrest, Hansen's first overture to the Soviets occurred in October 1985. He sent a typed letter to the Soviet embassy in Washington to a diplomat who he knew was not being watched by the FBI. Hansen allegedly wrote that he would send a box of documents from the most sensitive projects of the U.S. intelligence community. The letter said, All are originals to aid in verifying their authenticity. The Soviets gave their new friend the codename B. Hansen, the FBI says, also used the codenames Ramon Garcia, Jim Baker, and G. Robertson. The letter asks for a $100,000 payment, and in the first communication, in order to prove just how extraordinarily valuable he could be, B tells the Soviets about 3 KGB agents working as American spies.
He might as well have put a gun to their heads.
Indeed, 2 of those KGB agents working for the United States were later executed. But if the allegations are true, Hansen himself had made a life-altering decision. Former KGB spy master Oleg Kalugin, who moved to the United States in the 1990s.
Somebody like Robert Hansen has to know that when you start spying, there may be no way out. How do you keep these people working for you?
The Russian Soviet intelligence was very careful about handling people. Number 1, protecting their identities. Number 2, keeping them happy. And number 3, keeping them as if they did not betray their country.
The FBI says early on, Hansen devised some extraordinary and ingenious methods known in intelligence circles as tradecraft to make sure he avoided detection. They included a way to conceal dates and times, another way to hide his identity. He allegedly told the Soviets, quote, "I will add 6 from stated months, days, and times in future communications. In other words, for January 1st at 12 noon, January would be July, the 1st would be the 7th, and 12 noon would be 6 p.m. The FBI says Hansen instructed the Soviets to make their first payment to him at this park in Northern Virginia. A dead drop in spy lingo because no one ever meets face to face. The letter even gave the Soviets the page and coordinates on a map of Northern Virginia so they could find the exact spot. Hansen allegedly specified the way to camouflage the drop-off with, quote, a green or brown plastic trash bag and trash to cover a waterproofed package. And the Soviets were instructed to leave a signal on a sign in the park near Hansen's home.
The fact that he does it near his home is brilliant because he doesn't have to go out and drive around at night when his wife says, "Where are you going, Bob?" He can go out and walk the dog or take a walk himself.
According to the FBI, this busy intersection near Washington's DuPont Circle was one of Hansen's so-called signal sites. It's where he'd allegedly post a call-out signal to his Soviet handlers telling them he had top-secret information to pass along. The system was really quite simple. Hansen, according to government documents, would place a piece of white tape vertically like this on a lamppost or utility pole. Once the handlers got what they wanted and left Hansen's payment at the drop site, they would leave a piece of tape horizontally, like this. About a month after the first letter from Hansen, according to the FBI, Soviet KGB agents left $50,000 in cash in a trash bag at this dead drop in Virginia. It would be the first of several payments that would eventually add up to more than $600,000. Hansen allegedly wrote his handlers a thank you note, which says, as far as the funds are concerned, I have little need or utility for more than $100,000. It merely provides a difficulty since I cannot spend it, store it, or invest it easily without tripping warning bells.
Most spies, or many spies, demand more money. He was never demanding more money. Bob, I believe, may have been in it for the game, not the gain.
And the game played on. In a meticulous, precise maneuver, Hansen allegedly attempted to re-establish contact with the KGB after a brief interruption in early 1986. According to the FBI, while based here in New York City, Hansen developed an elaborate scheme to determine if the Soviets still wanted him to spy. He laid out the details in a letter to them, which said in part, "If you want our conversations to continue, please have someone place an ad in the Washington Times. The ad should read, 'For sale, Dodge Diplomat, 1971, needs engine work, $1,000. And sure enough, if you check the classified ad section of the Washington Times on July 14th, 1986, there it is. Dodge 71 Diplomat, needs engine work, $1,000. Little did anyone else seeing the ad know the hidden meaning. Hansen allegedly sent the Soviets further details stating that he would leave a message at the appointed number, identifying himself as Ramon. You will respond, the instructions say. I'm sorry, but the man with the car is not here. Can I get your number? The number will be in area code 212. I will not specify the area code on the line. With that, the FBI says communications were eventually reestablished. All the while, Robert Hansen was leading what appeared to be the life of an exemplary family man, a credit to the FBI.
He led what all would, I think, say was, on the surface, a blameless and highly moral life.
Former CIA Director James Woolsey.
This is a case where, in the beginning, nothing was as it appeared.
Certainly for 15 years, Mr. Hansen did not appear to be a spy. There's no doubt about that. What's interesting about Hansen is, assuming B is Hansen, is that he did almost everything right.
FBI documents indicate that Hansen never told the KGB who he really was, and that he refused to meet face-to-face with any KGB agent. According to the government, Hansen was trying to leave no room for error. But spying is a high-stakes game.
Every time he spins that wheel, he's betting his life. And any time it lands on 00, he loses his life.
But Hansen was uniquely positioned not to get caught, according to the FBI. Through his job, he knew secret government plans to catch Soviet spies. And if he ever suspected that he might have been found out, all he had to do was check the FBI's computer files, which he allegedly did on a regular basis. Former CIA counterintelligence chief Paul Redmond.
He knew everything the Bureau was doing to try to catch the Russians spying here, so he could tailor his own activities to avoid those measures and help the Russians themselves to tailor theirs in meeting him, and therefore avoid detection.
He knew where the FBI was looking, and he knew, importantly, where the FBI was not looking.
In 1989, the FBI opened a classified investigation of State Department employee Felix Bloch, who was suspected of spying for the Soviets. But the case fell apart when somehow Bloch was warned, and the government now says it was Hansen who tipped off the Soviets to the ongoing investigation. Bloch was never charged.
What was Robert Hansen saying to you at the time the Felix Bloch investigation was going on?
Well, he knew about it, and very few of us knew about it. I mean, it was very closely held, as all espionage cases are closely held, and we began to speculate as to where the leak came from. And here's the man talking to me about this, and apparently, according to the indictment, the man who was the source of this.
Altogether, according to the FBI, Hansen sent the Soviets and later the Russians 27 letters, 26 computer disks, and more than 6,000 pages of documents. The damage appears to be massive, and it seems every day there's another revelation. Just over the weekend, reports surfaced that Hansen compromised a secret tunnel used to listen in on the Russian embassy, worth hundreds of millions of dollars. According to present and former government officials, the narrow tunnel was dug under the Soviet embassy compound, which was constructed beginning in the late 1970s. Reports today said officials are also trying to determine if Hansen may have sabotaged sensitive computer systems. Through it all, Hansen did not draw attention to himself, leading a modest lifestyle. At work, he was conservative, serious, and determined.
You wouldn't discuss the Redskins with him, but you would discuss art, you would discuss religion, morality, ethics, technology, and from that standpoint, he was a very complex but interesting individual. Difficult to get to know, but when you get to know him, he's a deep man.
Hansen's alleged spying continued until the fall of the Soviet Union, when the FBI says there's a years-long break in the correspondence between him and his handlers. But even though the Soviet Union was no more, the U.S. and Russia continued to spy on each other. And in 1999, Hansen allegedly went back into action. The Russians set up a new signal site on this road in an exclusive section of Washington, D.C., and instructed their operative to place white thumbtacks on a pole to show when he was ready to do a dead drop. The detail is astonishing. The Russians even suggested to Hansen what drugstore to go to buy the thumbtacks. But according to the FBI, in this later round of spying, Hansen seems to have been agitated, seemingly upset after the years of silence. I have come about as close as I ever want to come to sacrificing myself to help you, and I get silence. I hate silence. Giving up on me is a mistake, Hansen allegedly wrote. I have proven inveterately loyal and willing to take grave risks, which could even cause my death. I ask you to help me survive. But while Hansen allegedly wrote notes asking his handlers to use Palm Pilots to improve communications, it seems that somehow, somewhere, someone was preparing to double-cross Robert Hansen himself. Late last year, it appears from deep inside Russian intelligence, the FBI obtained a treasure trove of information about a well-placed Russian spy. Shocked and sickened at the possible treachery of one of their own, FBI agents zeroed in on their once trusted agent, Robert Hansen. Former CIA Director James Woolsey.
It seems as though that somebody from Russian intelligence essentially handed over the case file on Robert Hansen.
Who knows?
They had audio tapes, indications are fingerprints on actual documents.
The affidavit certainly suggests that the U.S. government had and has or had access to an extraordinarily detailed set of material, but how they got it, I have absolutely no idea.
Wherever the information came from, and the FBI isn't telling, starting in December, agents secretly trailed Hansen as he made trips to this dead drop at a park near his home. And Hansen's home itself appears to have been under constant surveillance. According to a source close to the investigation, the FBI secretly used a neighbor's house as a staging ground. In fact, property records show the house was purchased Christmas week for $362,000 cash. At the FBI, officials arranged a phony pre-retirement promotion for Hansen. And when he reported to headquarters for a meeting about the job, his office was bugged. After 15 years of alleged spying, time was running out. It was Sunday night, February 18th. Hansen was allegedly making another scheduled dead drop, placing a plastic trash bag under this bridge for his Russian handlers. Inside, there was a package containing more top-secret information and an encrypted computer disk with a message from Hansen to his handlers saying, "Something has aroused the sleeping tiger. It appears my greatest utility to you has come to an end." It turns out the end was a lot closer than Hansen thought. Moments later, he heard one word and 3 letters. Freeze. FBI.
I said, no way, no way, no way.
Family friend Richard McPherson, the headmaster of the high school attended by Hansen's teenage son, heard the news from Hansen's nephew.
And he said that Bob Hansen has been arrested for spying. And then I said, well, can you give me some detail? What happened? And last night they got him red-handed. It was actually the words he used. They got him red-handed.
More now on the arrest of a key FBI agent accused.
A veteran FBI agent.
As the news broke, Hansen's longtime friends and colleagues were thunderstruck, especially when they saw the evidence the FBI had obtained.
Imagine that your friend of many years had been killed in an accident in the morning, and you go and you sit down in the afternoon and you watch a videotape of his autopsy. That was what it was like to read this affidavit. Just gruesome.
Why do you think he took that risk? What motivated him?
If I had to take a stab at it, I would say he was trying to commit the intelligence equivalent of the perfect crime.